Bonjour, fam.
Amelia Familia, what is up? Are you ready to sync, sir?
I'm ready to sink my time into this beautiful podcast, just like all of our faithful listeners will.
Hello, and welcome to the Interstate Gamers Podcast. I'm your host, Kevin, a.k.a. K-Slugs.
My name is Peter, a.k.a. Deal For Real, and I'm also your host.
Welcome one, welcome all, to the 40th episode of the Interstate Gamers Podcast.
I believe you meant to say 40th.
Isn't that what I said?
No, you said 40th. You need to say 40.
40. Welcome to the 40th episode of the Interstate Gamers Podcast, where we switch our accents. No, just kidding. We're here to, as you know, rank your favorite games and some of your not so favorite games. I think I used to say all the time.
Right.
But now I don't, because I don't know why.
Variety is the spice of life.
Yes. But I can't believe we've made it to 40, man. This is kind of incredible. But at the same time, I can, because we're just that badass.
We're badass and diligent, and we have a very special 40th. You clicked on the podcast, probably. You saw the title already, probably, unless you just started at episode 1 and just never looked at your screen ever again, which I'm sure some people do that out there. But do you think we're ready to just hop in and introduce the game? We don't really have news or anything. I think it's just time for us to just get into it.
Go right into it, man. It's going to be an interesting episode.
I fully agree. We have ready for you, dear listeners, a review of the Wii classic Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
Damn, I've been waiting a long time to rank a Super Smash Bros. Game. And the first one, maybe either the first or only, I don't know. You'll have to tune in to see. But I'm happy that it's Brawl, because this one is such a very interesting game from a critical standpoint. So there's a lot to dive into. I think I have so much of an opinion on this game and really so much experience with the Smash Bros. In general. I really didn't even have to take any notes. So spoilers, damn. This is all from my brain.
Damn, dude. Meanwhile, I have a full 8.5 by 11 sheet with 4 columns of small text. I'll try to get through it quickly because we don't want to talk to you guys for too long today. But you know, sometimes we get into it. Mm-hmm. So just a little bit of that normal Deal For Real background context or context. Sorry. Smash Bros. Brawl came out for the Wii in 2008. It is the third entry in the illustrious Super Smash Bros. Franchise. And I think what makes this game super interesting is that this is the first Smash Bros. Game that was a huge event and a phenomenon like we know those games to be today. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Melee was greatly anticipated and hyped up, and people loved it, as they well should have. But that game came out only 2 years or so after Smash 64.
Yeah.
Whereas Brawl came out 6-7 years after Melee. So not only was there a lot of time to build expectation and hype and speculate and all that stuff, but also Nintendo and Game Freak themselves were super happy to promote the game with things like the Smash Dojo blog, which I believe Sakurai himself wrote articles on that website to introduce the readers to new characters, stages, game modes, all that stuff. He even put spoiler tags in there for the unlockable stuff. So if you were a bad boy like me, you could click on that and spoil stuff for yourself. But I remember following that. I must have been 13 or 14 at that point. And that was the hype builder for sure. And so this game was definitely the most massive, hyped up, big event Smash Brothers game up until that point. I think we were just talking about this briefly before we aired, but you said that you had gotten this game later, right? You weren't there on the ground floor necessarily.
Yeah, so a little bit of context about the game from my perspective and my experience with it. I had played it throughout the years after it came out, on the Wii briefly. I had played it with a nunchuck with my family and random friends on occasion, but in the town where I grew up, everybody played Smash 64. It was just kind of the thing because everybody was still into the 64, and not many people had a Wii from my hometown. It's kind of weird, but it's not the first experience I had with Brawl. But here's an interesting story. So we all know our good buddy Ryan, a.k.a. Rybread. He comes on the show and talks about Metroid games a lot. Mm-hmm. Well, the day I met Ryan, we were at a luau. It was like my first day moving into the college dorm, and they hosted a luau. And we teamed up in a volleyball and lost miserably. But we got to talking, and he was like, yeah, I've never lost in Smash Bros. It's like, I've never lost in Smash Bros. Me being super confident, I was like, I got this guy. Like, this guy can't take me. So we get up to his dorm room, and he, like, puts in Brawl, and I'm like, the hell is this? He's like, yeah, this is Smash Bros. I'm like, no, this isn't Smash Bros. This isn't the right Smash Bros. He's like, yeah, this is the Smash, like, this is the latest release of Smash Bros. I'm like, what is this? And so I was like, all right, I'll play you, but I don't really know this one. So pre-Johns, before I even knew what Johns meant. But he did put the smackdown on me. I made it a little bit respectable, but
yeah.
He put the smackdown on me. But I knew I would have had him in 64 because I've never lost to him in 64. Anyway, yeah, he ended up destroying us in Brawl, but I would get closer and closer. And then I started to like, okay, I want to train to get as good at this guy. And then that's basically how we started getting into the competitive scene was me and Ryan just going back and forth trying to get better than each other. And we got into Project Dim. And yeah, it just started a whole trickle of events that eventually led us back to Melee, the one we play competitively more often. So real interesting story there.
Yeah, I think PM Project M is what I love Project M, by the way. I don't play it much anymore, but I definitely love that game. That, rather than Brawl itself, got me into the competitive scene. But now, again, I play mostly Melee, still do, with some of my good buddies here in Colorado. But yeah, unlike Kevin, I definitely got this game like soon after it came out, played it with a bunch of friends. I had like one friend in Texas, because this is when I was still in Texas, that I played with all the time. And I also play a lot by myself because, in my opinion, the single player was very good. More on that later. For those of you who know us, you know that Smash Brothers is a big part of both of our lives.
For sure.
Now that you know our detailed backstories, should we get talking about the gameplay?
Let's do it. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so as you may know, there's maybe some of you don't know. If you're not in the competitive scene, you wouldn't know this, but competitively, Brawl is not a game to be admired for. There's a bunch of randomness to it, tripping and things of that nature. The tech's really weird. It's floaty, and there's all these different kinds of mechanics that make it not a very good competitive game, but it's a really brilliant party game. So it makes this category for me one of the most difficult to rank. What do you think about those things? Because I know you got some notes written down on them.
That's a pretty good summary of my first big point, is that the physics are very different from Melee's physics, and also by extension 64's physics. But yeah, it's pretty commonly said that the development team decided consciously to make this game very different from Melee because some of the developers allegedly were not pleased with how competitive the game had gotten at high levels, and they wanted to. And I don't know if this is all a fact. That's why I keep saying allegedly and all that stuff. But the story is they wanted to make this game non-competitive on purpose so that people couldn't play it in a way unlike what they intended. Again, if that's true or not, I don't know. But I think that is very clear, or it makes a lot of sense to think that way when you play the game, because it is very different from Melee. Like you said, it's a lot floatier. It's easier to act out of a combo quicker. Like if you're getting comboed, well, first of all, you don't really get comboed in this game very much,
right?
Because of the floatiness and how soon you can act out of being hit.
Yeah.
Overall, the gameplay is slower, and it's more emphasized on like you spacing and timing everything perfectly so that you get that one hit, and then after that you kind of go back to the neutral state.
Right.
That's an oversimplification, but that's what makes this game so different from Melee, and that's part of the reasons why people generally don't still play this game competitively. I think there's still a small scene for it, but
yeah,
pretty much everyone who played Brawl moved on to Smash 4, and now they play Ultimate. And, you know, Melee and Smash 64 even still have bigger competitive scenes than this game does, and there's a reason for that.
Right, and I think that's one of the things that hurt the score for me in this category, is that Nintendo tried so hard to limit the capabilities of the user that it ended up ruining some gameplay experience for me. I know a lot of people may or may not have that perspective. I do have a competitive perspective, as do you. But I still think it hurts the game as a whole because I feel like people enjoy Ultimate's physics a lot more. Now, granted, that's many years into the future, but still, at the same time, they could have done something similar to Melee, and I believe it would have been just fine because Melee is near and dear to people's hearts from both the casual and competitive communities. So I saw no reason to really let people be good at a game. It's okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I know anecdotally there's still a bunch of people who like Melee and 64 and, well, whatever game they like casually, right? Just because the game has such a high skill ceiling in the case of Melee doesn't mean that casual people can't enjoy it. So I agree with you there. I don't think there's a reason to nerf the competitive side as much as they did. Having said that, when I was younger and the game was newer, I was still really enjoying it. I enjoyed playing with the friends. I enjoyed playing the single-player mode, the various single-player modes, and I just had a blast with it. Nowadays, actually yesterdays, because I played this game yesterday, I was playing against some computers, and I played the Subspace Emissary, and I also played against my roommate Mitchell, who, again, plays competitive Melee with me. And I don't think we necessarily enjoyed playing competitively against each other,
right?
But Subspace Emissary co-op was a lot of fun. More on that later. And also we had a lot of fun doing home run contest co-op. We went double Ganon and just knocked the snot out of that sandbag.
Right.
So it's still very enjoyable from a casual perspective, but if you have any experience with basically a faster Smash game, because there are several of them, then I think you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other games kind of ruin the experience for this one. However, that being said, it is a lot of fun, and you can't take away from that. And there are a lot of game modes, which kind of delves into content a little bit. But it does speak to the game, Smash Bros. As a whole, right? We have to still consider that it is Smash Bros., and there hasn't really been a bad Smash Bros. Game. I would never say that. I think Smash Bros. Is still fun as a whole, and this game is still fun as a whole, and I can have a lot of fun playing it. It's just that, competitively it would hurt it. And really, if you're just playing against your friends, you would kind of even if you're not playing competitively, you still want to kind of beat up on your friends with these Nintendo characters, and everybody has a main, and everybody's having fun with it. You don't want to just trip and lose to your bestie because of that random shit, just things like that. But like I said, as a whole, still really good. We have to think about all the different kinds of move sets you can do within Smash Bros. All the different controls, how a platforming fighter game feels. It still feels really good. I'm still impressed by the game in general. So I wouldn't say that it's going to get a bad score for me. I'm just saying it's not going to get a super great score because of what it could have been.
Yeah. Let it be known that I have a single bullet point that says in all caps, tripping.
Tripping?
So I'm really not a fan of tripping.
Yeah.
That I think is just indefensible.
Yeah, I agree.
I do like the new items that they included. I think some of them are quite fun casually.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have specific examples because I don't usually, play with items on, being the cool competitive guy that I am.
Right.
But I do think that they added fun variety, and there's a reasonable number of them, I feel.
Yeah.
To where you can recognize what they are and all that stuff. And I think the stages too, they have some fun new gimmicks and stages, like the Fire Emblem stage Castle Siege that transforms between, I think, 3 different landscapes.
Yeah.
And that was something that, Melee sort of did that with Poke Floats transforming and Pokemon Stadium transforming. Something about Pokemon and transforming, I'm realizing. But nothing quite like this. And I think it's cool that they designed new stages to both visually impress with the new graphic capabilities of the Wii and also to introduce new gameplay elements. I think they did a good job of doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It introduced new gameplay elements that weren't there previously, and it did a good job of those. And I definitely agree.
I think kind of the last point that I have is I mentioned that I did some cooperative single-player type stuff with Mitchell. The stadium mini games being a great example of that. You've got your target test and your multi-man brawl. I was about to say melee, and home run contest. Those are a lot of fun to team up with a buddy, or you can even do you can compete against your friend in home run contest. The Subspace Emissary, we also, I think, have to talk about that a little bit and gameplay, because that does introduce a whole new kind of like side-scrolling beat-em-up aspect to Smash. That was sort of there in the adventure mode and Melee, but not nearly to this extent.
Right. Yeah, Subspace was really cool, and all the other different modes and things like that. I think, thinking about it, Smash Bros., the series as a whole, may be like one of the greatest multiplayer games of all time, and to that end, co-op. And I think what makes it is kind of the Nintendo character aspect, but the game is just designed so well fundamentally. And I think there has to be some credit given to that. And I kind of touched on it earlier about just speaking in broad terms of Smash Bros. But that is one thing that you had mentioned that I was like, oh yeah, kind of the co-op aspect of it, like, or the multiplayer, just like playing with your friends. There's this really good feeling about it, like it just feels fun and it feels right. Like you're just hanging with the bros. And that's why, like, playing competitively, it's so easy to just hammer out Smash Bros games, right? Because it's just like each one is just like a different experience, and it just feels so unique and different each time you battle someone. It's a really cool game.
Yeah, and especially with this game in particular, they give you so many different modes to enjoy playing with friends. Like you can play Versus, you can play Subspace Emissary, you can play the Stadium, you can play event matches, you can do all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
So really, like from that perspective, it's almost perfect, and as far as like the variety of things you can do with your friends.
Right. Well, I don't have too much more to say. Actually, I don't really have anything else to say unless I can add or piggyback off of what you might have to say, but I think we're mostly in agreement. Now, whatever score that we give, I'm not sure. It depends upon how we value each of the things that we said, but I think for the most part, from what my understanding is, we kind of agree on the general concepts of good and bad things about this game in terms of gameplay.
I agree that we agree.
Cool. Well, why don't you tell me what your score was?
My score is a hot, fresh 7T.
7T? Wow. I did not expect that low.
Well, see, we have to keep saying it, but it's still not a bad score in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, you're definitely right. Well, mine was an 84. I gave mine a lot of points just for being Smash Bros. But I did dock a lot of points for the physics and things of that nature. But also the gameplay elements of, like, multiplayer, co-op, things of that, and then all the different game modes. While that is kind of goes into content a little bit, I think those things were done well. They added a lot of good gameplay elements to the game, and I think it deserves the score that I gave it. So I believe I could justify my 84.
Yeah, and I think I can justify my 70. I definitely docked a lot of points for what I saw to be needless nerfs to most of the competitive, but also the casual experience.
Yeah,
you will see my content score benefits a lot from all the content that you kind of spoke about a few seconds ago. So
incoming 100.
Ooh, we'll get there when we get there.
Right. Well, moving on to everyone's favorite section, aesthetics and visuals. So Pete Boy, why don't you hit us up with those young visual stuff?
Sure. So I'm gonna start off with a complaint that I don't have personally, but I've seen it a lot on the internet. I've seen a bunch of people say that the game looks a little too realistic, like they went for a more realistic feeling with the colors and the textures and things like that. Like I've heard some people say, oh, like Mario's outfit is very dull because they made it look like actual denim. I just never felt that way. I felt that it's okay for this game to look a little bit darker and more realistic because they were, having fun with the new Wii capabilities, and it also helps differentiate it from the past Smash games, and also, as it turns out, from the future Smash games.
Right.
It's a personal complaint that some people have that I've just never shared, but I just wanted to mention it to see what you think.
Yeah, I think I haven't heard too much of that complaint, but I definitely agree. I really like the realistic, kind of look to it, and I have always thought that it looks more real than most Smash games, but it also kind of reminds me a little bit of Twilight Princess. I don't know, like aesthetically, it kind of feels like Twilight Princess, and I don't know why, especially since, Link looks like Twilight Princess Link, but it's just kind of always like, I kind of view it as a Twilight Princess Smash Bros, if that makes sense. It's kind of weird how I view it aesthetically, but I really dig it. I think it's really good. I think everything they did aesthetically is amazing. I would even go as far to say as visually, it is either my favorite or my second favorite visually in terms of like what they've done and the graphics and things of that nature. Like all the animations that they do, all the characters and the way everything looks, the colors. I think it's all good, to be honest.
I've never really thought about which Smash game has my favorite visuals. I can say that 64 has some of my least favorite because it's on the Nintendo 64, unfortunately. It's got a lot of nostalgic appeal, though, I will say that.
Yeah.
I may think about that later, because that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the wide variety of visuals that you get in the stages, especially. You have the aforementioned Fire Emblem level, Castle Siege, which is, they went super realistic, detailed graphics, very epic feeling. But then you also have the 8-bit levels like the Donkey Kong level. And then you have even stages like Electroplankton, which are very colorful and abstract and just very striking visually. So I think it's really cool that they, Melee and even 64 kind of did this as well. But they really do try to capture the full gamut of like Nintendo series and eras and things like that. And that's really admirable.
Yeah, you could tell a lot of heart and soul went into creating the visuals and even the audio once we get to that section, but like a lot of effort was put into the aesthetics of this game, and it's something I can admire and appreciate. Kudos, I gotta say.
Yeah, even the menus are interesting and different than what they did before, and now the menu style of it kind of being like, not just an up and down menu, but you press the stick in all different directions to go where you need to go.
Yeah,
that's stuck through the Smash games, and that's even something you can see in other games that Sakurai has developed, like Kirby games. The common story that I've heard is that his wife is actually the one who designed the menu for, I don't know if it was this game, or I guess Kirby Air Ride obviously came first because that's a GameCube game. But I think she designed the menu for that, and then that sort of inspired the menu for this game and all the other Smash games afterwards. Fact checkers might have to check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
That's a really cool fact.
Yeah, so shout outs to Mrs. Sakurai.
There we go, Mrs. Sakurai. Well, cool. Yeah, it is. You mentioned the menus. I kind of forgotten about that, but the menus were pretty cool. And I didn't even think about it, but navigation is a lot different, especially nowadays. I feel like maybe the navigation is a little bit too complicated nowadays.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go too much into that game, but it did set a precedent. And to your point is what you were saying. And yeah, I agree. That was really cool. Visual effects, I think, were done pretty well, especially from like Melee to Brawl. I think they were done a lot better. I think animations look a lot crisper. Kirby's up throw still cool.
Amen, brother.
That remains the coolest throw in the game. There's more taunts now, right?
Yeah, there are 3 taunts instead of 1 for maximum disrespectage.
Yes. So that was a really cool addition they made. I know there's like little details here and there that we could probably talk about all day, but I think the general gist of it is it's a really nice upgrade from Melee. I did want to point out that it's probably not as big of a jump from Melee to Brawl, visually, I'd say, than 64 to Melee was.
Oh, absolutely not as big of a jump.
Because I always think about 64, and then I think about Melee, I'm like, holy shit, how did they get from there to there, like point A to point B there? Because it was like, man, such a huge upgrade. But
yeah,
still impressive, and I definitely think it gives a lot of points for me.
We also got to talk about Subspace Emissary and its big dang old cutscenes.
Oh yes, the cutscenes.
Because they have a lot of cutscenes, and I personally love them. I think they're great.
Yeah, I think everybody loves them. Like when anybody mentions Brawl, the first thing I think anybody thinks of is Subspace Emissary. Like,
yeah,
that mode is so spectacular, and purely because of the cutscenes, something you've never seen from the Nintendo universe before. Like all of these characters interacting, and then like to see them in that kind of like representation, like it's done really well. I wish they'd make a Smash Bros. Movie, because that just shows how well it would have done.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell they spent time and effort channeling each character's personality traits through their actions, because there's no dialogue. It's all like gestures and grunts and whatever, and they do a beautiful job of comparing Link with Kirby with Mario. You know what I mean? And it's just great to see that.
Yeah.
It makes sense that here's a fun fact: the longest piece of fiction ever written is a Smash Brothers Brawl fan fiction.
Wow, I did not know that.
It's like some absolutely absurd number of words. I want the fact checkers to go check that fact so that they can then start reading this fan fiction. I read like a chapter of it.
But that makes sense, though, because there are so many different directions you can take with that kind of fan fiction, right? You can take each character and go off on their own stories and have them intermingle in different ways. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And on the topic of Subspace, they definitely took the opportunity to introduce a bunch of new enemies and creatures that are exclusive to this game. And some of them are very interesting looking. I definitely put like air quotes around that, but I like them. I like how weird they went with some of these enemies because, I mean, it's Smash Brothers. It's not like, some super serious tale of trials and tribulations. It's Smash Brothers. And so they have enemies, of course, from Mario games and I think mostly Mario. I think other series as well. But there's a lot of original enemies that have, there's like clouds with a battery pack on them. When you attack them, they turn into storm clouds. They get angry, like there's an enemy that's like, it's basically two giant scythes on a ball, but the ball has like a baby carriage aesthetic to it. It's very weird.
Yeah.
It's just fun. Like they obviously just like went balls to the wall on this and had a great time.
Yeah.
Like
I would say that it kind of gives the feel to the game, really. Like Subspace, it like makes kind of Brawl what it is. Like, Brawl has its own aspects, but I feel like it just only enhanced like the look and feel of it. Like it just made everything feel like more like a universe and a world that all these characters were in. And I think this is the game that really it gave this a story mode, basically. Not to go too much into content again, but yeah, I mean that's what it is. And Smash Bros. Had never seen that before, and it never will see that again, honestly, until the Switch mode. But it wasn't as good as this. I mean, this was I know Sakurai has his reasons for not doing that, but I can just say everybody wants this mode back. So maybe one day, they can't implement 1,000 characters forever. So maybe they'll get back to the story, and maybe they'll bring back Subspace. But one can dream.
I think it's about time for us to move on to audio, but I do want to say one quick thing is that I've said this before in conversation, but I'm going to go on record saying that I would, maybe not for $60, but I would buy a standalone like Smash Brothers story mode game. That's the Subspace Emissary level of quality. I would do that.
I'd pay 100. I don't even care.
Oh damn!
I don't even care.
Damn.
Online story mode, MMORPG, Smash Bros. Give it to me. But yeah, like you said, moving on. Actually, we have to give our scores. What am I doing?
We do.
So I'll give my score, and I'll say that I gave it a 94.
Damn, buddy, I gave it a 95.
Nice. We're really close on that one. I like it. Cool. Moving on to audio. This game looks and sounds great. The soundtrack is amazing. Oh, yo, that I'm sure you've probably already heard at the beginning of this episode. But yeah, the sounds are great. I think this is the best sounding Smash Bros. Game, actually. I can say that confidently because the later ones, I kind of like the way that the moves hit and sound better in this one. It's funny how like this game, its sound effects really kind of not really make the game, but it gives more flavor to the game. Like I never noticed it from like 64 to Melee to Brawl, but from Brawl to Smash 4 to Ultimate, I really noticed the way it's like the differences in the sounds. And I really think they peaked at Brawl. And yeah, I think it all sounds great.
See, I find that interesting because I personally feel that Melee has my favorite sound effects. I think it's like a good balance between the cartooniness of the N64 Smash sound effects and the realism of this game's sound effects. Because for me, these just feel a little too quiet, a little too slappy, kind of, for lack of a better word. I didn't really take off points for that because I think that's like such a personal preference. And in the grand scheme of things, I think it's kind of a small detail.
Right.
But that's interesting that you and I have a different perspective on that.
For sure.
I do agree, though, that the sound effects definitely are a big part of the identity of each Smash game, whether you consciously notice them or not.
Right.
I want to shout out the musicians
Yeah.
on this game more than anyone else because musicians are the best. The music effort for this game was incredible. I looked it up, over 250 songs, which nowadays not quite as impressive, but this was unprecedented.
Yeah, it really was.
Like I think someone from one of the companies that was involved in this game, because a game like this takes multiple companies, one of them said like this was the biggest music effort in a video game ever up until this point. And I would believe it. Not only are there 250 songs, but a lot of them, probably even the majority of them, are like remixed, reworked, reorchestrated versions of classic video game soundtracks. Not just classic ones like the ones we all know and love, but also some more obscure ones that they threw in there, like just because they love those franchises and they wanted to represent them somehow.
Right.
And it took, from what I read, a team of 38 individuals to make all this music happen. And that probably, I'm not even sure that counts like the musicians and the orchestras and stuff. It probably just includes like the producers and the arrangers and all that. So shout outs to everyone involved who made the music as epic and as, what's the best way to say this? Like as much of a love letter as it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ooh. But yeah, no, that's actually incredible. I didn't know all of that, but it makes sense. Like there is a lot, and once again, going from game to game, 64 to Melee, there's definitely an increase in terms of like the number of sounds, but nothing like what they did from Melee to Brawl. Like you said, they remixed and reorchestrated a lot of the songs that we know and love from each franchise, and that's what makes this game so special in terms of like audio and things like that. Not just the sound effects, whether you like them or not, it's personal preference. But man, they put a lot of effort into that, and so you can clearly see it. It sounds good. A lot of people might even have, actually, I know a lot of people have like Brawl music on their, back in the day was the iPod and things like that. I know Ryan's got it on his iPod. It's incredible what they did with this game. Yeah.
And I think one of the coolest parts is how each stage in the game has like 5 to 10, possibly even more soundtracks associated with it. And you can use the menu called My Music to change with very fine detail the probability of each track to appear when you play that level. It's just so incredible that they gave you that much control over the music. And that's also like how they managed to fit all this music into the game, is because each stage has like 10 different tracks that could potentially play on it, Also, this is a measure of how epic the game was when it was released. This is the first Smash Brothers game to have a main theme with lyrics in it. And the lyrics are like sung by this epic choir in Latin.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome, dude. Like, who was expecting that?
No, nobody. And it made it sound so much better. You're like, oh, hell yeah. Like, I want to play some Brawl. Like, it made you get ready to battle. And like, every time you heard that, like, your ears perk up. You're like, Brawl? Brawl? Where is it? Brawl?
Brawl?
But yeah, no, the main theme is amazing. I love the main theme.
Yeah.
Could it possibly be the best Smash Bros. Main theme?
That is a hard one. I was thinking about that. I always forget what Smash 4's theme sounds like because I never really play that game very much. I know, like, when I hear it, I recognize it, but I can never think of it from memory.
It must not be that substantial. But to be fair, that's because we didn't play Smash 4 a lot. For other reasons than the audio. But it's neither here or there. The point is that it's done really well. I'm interested what do you think about the sound effects? You said that you didn't like them as much as Melee, but what do you think about sound effects in general?
I think they're good, yeah. I don't think they're great. I think they could have been done better, but I think I see what they were trying to do, and I can appreciate it. I think it's mainly personal preference that I just prefer like the kind of meteor like whoosh of Melee,
Right. Yeah. One thing I want to say, like the character voices, like in this game, I thought were a lot better than most because Kirby sounds not like a baby. Kirby sounds like like he's ready to kick some ass. I might be biased because of Kirby, but Kirby sounds the best in this game out of all the games for sure. And Kirby's the most fun to play in this game. And my main was Kirby for a while, so I have a lot of bias surrounding that perhaps. But I feel like, even when I'm playing PM, like the sounds of the game just sound so much better. And obviously PM and Brawl use the same sounds, but since I play PM a lot more than I play Brawl, it still gives me that same feel of Brawl. So I still experience those sounds, and I think I'd prefer them over the other games. But again, like you said, it comes down to preference. But I found them to be really good, especially the character voices.
Last thing I want to say about audio is, hands off my bread.
Hands off my bread. That's a good one. What's another one that he says? No, it's Sonic. You're too slow.
You're too slow.
Yeah, there's a lot of good quotes.
Ike out there saying, I fight for my friends.
How noble. I wish we'd all fight for our friends.
Yeah.
But sadly, this section has come to an end. So, Peter, what did you give the audio rating?
In a Peter Williams first, I gave it a 99.
A 99? Dang.
I subtracted 1 point for the sound effects not being, in my opinion, as good as they could have been.
Let's go. This is record breaking. You guys don't even know. Like, this is, I mean, you guys probably do know because you listen to the podcast, but this is, I can't believe it. You didn't do 100 or 95 or anything divisible by 5? This is,
Son.
This is an incredible moment.
It's a symbolic gesture because Brawl deserves a symbolic gesture.
You know what? That's right. And on that end, I gave it a 98. So we're really, really close. I almost wish I had rated it a 99 just so that we'd have the same score and that wasn't divisible by 5.
Right.
But alas, I cannot ruin the integrity of our ratings. So therefore, I'm sticking with my rating. Moving on to the content and the last section of our ratings. I'll just start by saying, wow. I mean, wow. This game has got a lot of freaking content in it. Like, whether it be from the game, we've talked about it a lot just to get to this point, and we've already alluded to how much content was in the game. But yeah, from all the game modes, from all the different items they added, different things they did with the stages, the new stages they added, all the different songs, the effort they put into the songs. I mean, this game has a lot of content. And if that wasn't enough, you have Subspace Emissary, which could almost be a game in and of itself. And so it's just a massive, it has the most amount of content out of any Smash game. I could easily say that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't forget the stage builder, which
the stage builder,
which I enjoyed. I enjoyed the heck out of the stage builder when I was younger.
Yeah.
Strange enough, with Ultimate, I've not been as hyped, but with Brawl, I was in there. I was creating pieces of architectural genius.
And replay mode too.
Builder.
You could finally save replays of you kicking your friend's ass. You're like, yeah, remember that one time I beat you? And they could no longer say, no, you didn't beat me because you have it in video proof. You can make everybody watch it again.
You have no proof. Delete the VOD.
Delete the VOD. I'm not going to let you because it's my Wii.
We're talking 40 characters in total. That's if you include like Zelda and Sheik as separate and Pokemon Trainer, Pokemon as separate. That's several more characters than the 26 from Melee, so that's a big increase. We got Sonic and we got Snake, which was almost unthinkable back in the day.
Yeah, it was something. That's the only thing about it, though, is I've never thought Snake fit in this game, and I'm a little bit sad that he's stayed, but it's fine. It's fine. I think a lot of people are more happy than I am sad, or than there are people that are sad, but it's okay.
Yeah, I say just throw them in there, man.
True.
I do want to shout out also a bunch of the other content that includes the trophies, which are carryover from Melee, the stickers, which are new to this game, and the stickers are also a great way to shout out all these other smaller franchises. Like, you collect stickers and you look at them and you're like, I've never heard of this game, but this is a cool little sticker. And it's like, it's a small thing, it's a small little, again, love letter really to these other games that we might not always think of and remember. You got the Chronicle, which was like this big list of Nintendo games for the various consoles over the years, which I thought was pretty cool. You're not going to spend 10 minutes there, but it's a neat touch. And the Masterpieces section, which was demos of virtual console games. Like, wow, they included that in Brawl? Holy cannoli, dude.
Yeah.
Like, way to promote your virtual console by including these, like, 2 to 5 minute demos of games. Like, that's really cool. Like,
yeah.
Again, I'm not going to go back there all the time, but you have to you have to give them props for the effort.
Yeah, really. Just can't say it enough. The amount of effort and time and love they put into this game is just incredible. I don't even know what else to say. Like, I feel like we've said it all, but we can't explain it all because there's if you haven't played this game, go play it because you could spend hours doing it and you can have a lot of fun with your friends and family. But I don't know many people who haven't played Smash Bros, to be honest.
My only negative points on the content, and these are slight negatives, so don't worry. I was kind of bummed that they downsized the target test to where instead of seems like struck a nerve, where instead of each character having their own, they have 5 generic target tests that are different difficulties, and so you can challenge each of those 5 with any character. And then also the event matches, which were one of my favorite single-player elements from Melee, probably my favorite single-player element. Those have been sort of, I don't know if there's like fewer of them. I think there are fewer of them, but they just didn't seem quite as fun to me when I played them back in the day.
Yeah.
But if those 2 drawbacks are necessary for us to get Subspace Emissary, do that every day of the week. Like, I don't give a damn.
Yeah. You're right. They did kind of hold back on those aspects, especially the event matches, because event matches were kind of what gave the extra content to Melee, right? It made there a lot more to do in Melee. Well, there's also All-Star mode and other things like that, but event matches were really cool. And I agree with you. The event matches in this one were maybe not as much love was put into that, but yeah, slight criticism there. I don't really have anything else to add, if I'm being honest.
I don't either, man. I just have kind of a wrap-up statement, which is that the whole game, but specifically the content, was really like, it's hard for me to put my admiration into words, really.
Yeah.
But this game is an immense and beautiful celebration of all things Nintendo. And I think this game just came out at such a great time, and I think it just really captured the Smash Brothers spirit, possibly better than any Smash game ever has.
Yeah. It's kind of weird to rank a category where a game does almost everything right. It's kind of like hard to talk about it, right? Because it's kind of like, well, they pretty much did everything right, so no complaints here. They did this well, and this well. I don't really have much to say other than this one random specific thing, right? That's kind of how we're ranking this content. So, I mean, obviously, the score is going to be really good, but damn, yeah, good job, Nintendo. This was the best contented Smash Bros. You came out with.
What they did right is they made a lot of content that pays homage to all these franchises and gives you lots of ways to enjoy the game with your friends competitively or cooperatively. Power to the player. That's what they did right.
As Nintendo characters, like franchises that you know and love, that's what makes Smash Bros. So special, is that you could take Pikachu. Everybody knows Pikachu, and you can take him into a fight and be like, yeah, I'm going to beat your Mario, because everybody knows Mario, with my Pikachu, because I think Pikachu's stronger and a better character and cooler. And the other guy's like, no, you're not. No, he's not. So then that's when the chaos ensues, and that's when you get trapped into this game, and then you just fall in love with it and become a competitive player. And then, 10 years later, you're like, damn. Yeah. Anyway, I'll give my ratings for it. Actually, why don't you go ahead and give yours?
I'm about to hit you with that 99.
99. Damn. You got 2.
2 of them.
Damn, that's cool. Well, actually, I gave it a 99, so we're right on point.
I like how you said my rating is cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. No problem.
We try to give cool ratings here on the Interstate Gamers podcast.
Yeah, we try. But anyway, so we'll go and do some number crunching. I'm interested to see where this will rank, but we'll be right back after these few messages from our sponsors.
We lied. There were no messages from sponsors. So we're sorry. We try not to lie on the Interstate Gamers podcast, but sometimes it can't be helped.
It can't be helped.
We have done the number crunching. As is tradition, I will grab my sheet of paper. You probably heard that noise just now. I'm grabbing my analog physical sheet of paper.
That's how you know it's real.
That's how you know that it's real. My gameplay score was a 7T. Visuals was a 95. Audio was a 99. Those two together give an aesthetics score of 97. Nice round number there. And my content gave it a 99, which brings my Peter score to an 88.7.
Nice. My gameplay score was an 84. Visuals was a 94. And audio was a 98, which made my aesthetics score to be a 96. And then my content was a 99, bringing my overall score to a 93, which makes our IG score for the game a 90.8. Yeah, wow. So it's ranked 12th out of 33 games, but it's in like a very narrow margin of like a slew of games. So like Super Mario Galaxy 2 is a 90.9, and it's one above it, so it's 0.1 better than Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Conversely, Brawl is 0.1 points better than Cave Story. So it's interesting. There's a lot of games where it's not even a whole point better or a whole point worse.
Yeah, things are getting tight up in that 90 range. We rank a lot of good games here on the IG cast, as you well know by this point. So there's a lot of competition for that coveted 12th spot or 13th spot, whichever one this was. It's interesting because the game excels so much in pretty much every category except for gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at my scores in particular, you got 70 and then a whole bunch of high 90s.
Yeah.
So like kind of unfortunate, but I was just being honest with myself and
right. What could have been if the gameplay was more like Melee? What could have been?
If only. But as Kevin said earlier, if you are a Smash fan and somehow have not managed to play this game, I suggest you try it out, especially the Subspace Emissary. Such a great adventure mode. This is definitely, I think, a landmark Smash Brothers title and probably will remain so until the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, I agree. Until then. But yeah, we should start rating more shitty games.
Yeah, like this one?
Yeah.
Oof. Just kidding. I lied again.
Kind of spoilers. I don't think we put in too many lesser games because a lot of our fans were crying for some games that we have yet to rank, and I'm not going to spoil them yet. But there's some good games coming on the way, so I'm excited to rank those too. It's interesting. We do need to throw in some worse games, I think, at some point.
Yeah.
But the rankings are what they are. Everything's better than Chopper Attack. That's all I got to say.
Want a party tonight?
Well, thanks for listening and tuning into this episode. As you know, we appreciate anybody who supports us and just all of you guys. And you keep us going. With that, I'd like to shout out our patrons. Mallory Sutton. Ryan Everett renewed his subscription.
Heck yeah.
And Simon Webb, tried and true, my boy.
Executive producer,
keeping it strong. But yeah, thanks to all of our supporters. And if you would like to support us, we will graciously accept your money and use it to buy more games so that we can rate more stuff and keep our website up and running and things of that nature. So we do have some operating costs that we need help covering. It's not required, but it definitely helps. So if you're feeling generous, help the IG boys out and hit us with that pledge.
Valentine's Day is around the corner, so if Kevin is happily married, but I am not. So if you wanna buy my love with some money, this would be a great way to do that.
One less cheeseburger is all it takes to prove your love to Deal For Real per month.
One less cheeseburger.
And makes you healthier.
That's true. What also makes you healthy, because this nourishes your social bones, is going to twitter.com/the IG_cast. Underscore is not a word, it's rather that little line symbol,
Yeah.
Kevin tweets sometimes if you want to keep up with our happenings and Kevin's opinions. Not really mine because I don't do social media very much. You can go there and check out the website that Kevin coded lovingly with his own bare hands and metal plastic computer, theigcast.com. You can see all of our ratings there. You can see, mostly the ratings, but you can also see some of the people in our network, some of the people we like to shout out and people that we're happy to call part of the greater IG fam.
Yeah.
We shout them out there too.
For sure.
So definitely go check that out. You owe it to yourself and to me and Kevin.
Yeah, it's really hard to develop with bare hands. So please. And the site's really cool, like you said. You could view all the stats, the breakdowns of every game. I find it to be really cool to look at, just to kind of admire and see how the games compare to each other. It's really cool. Anyway, I think that's going to do it for us. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and love you too, guys.
Love you too. Bye-bye.